Ballsy thinking, the gender-agnostic antidote to sloppy thinking.
And so about a week ago we did our Ballsy Brief 1, which introduced this concept of the sagas, the NetZero sagas that we have coming for various different verticals, EVs, solar, nuclear, boilers and so on. Literally 24 hours after that Ballsy Brief was up on YouTube, Rishi Sunak, the UK Prime Minister, came on to tell us that he was scrapping the ceiling for ICE cars, internal combustion engine cars, 2030, and making them available to buy new and used until 2035. Of course, this turned out to be complete and utter crap, because the sales target that the manufacturers for motor vehicle manufacturers have to stick with are still those of 50% cars total need to be EVs by 2035, or there's a £15,000, £17,000 fine for each car over that. So that's obviously going to be passed on to consumers. And not only that, we've seen that the manufacturers themselves are jumping the gun because they're not convinced that the government's targets are going to be helpful to them, even if they're scrapped, and they are going all in on EVs, as early as Ford from 2027, and of course the latest one is Rolls-Royce, which said that its new £330,000 vehicle, all electric, so you're looking at what, $370,000 is going to be the only type of vehicle that it sells going into the future. It will not produce ICE vehicles from 2026. This is very interesting. In the last video I also talked about the BMW chairman, who said that the Chinese import of electric vehicles are very unlikely to affect BMW because they're in a particularly luxury segment. And of course they come from the same stable as Rolls-Royce, but the Chinese launched just a couple of days ago through Tongyi, the luxury car manufacturer, or indeed one of the main EV manufacturers in China, this luxury vehicle, and it's huge and it's massive, and it's a fifth of the price of the Rolls-Royce Century. So it really is going to impact the luxury sales market. And what's also interesting and hardly ever mentioned, but in connection with these particular vehicles is very interesting, is the reports that are coming out about the effect of the weight of these vehicles on certain civic properties. In the UK, we call them multi-storey car parks. And as we walk up here, you can see one built in the 60s, if not before. And of course, the weight of these vehicles, 2.6 tons for the Rolls-Royce Century, and similar weight to the Tongyi, the EHS9. You can look online, and there it is. That's the sort of car park that we have certainly in this town, and they're saying now that the structural engineers are saying that we really need to be careful, because a lot of electric vehicles all piling into these older infrastructures could cause a collapse of them. Now it looks as though that's fairly well looked after, but if you see, and there's another one here that you can't see so much, this one is newer, but it's still a multi-storey car park which is not built for heavy batteries. The battery in the Tongyi is 700 kilograms, and that is a huge weight which is not being taken care of. So as we move on, the EV saga continues. Not only do we not have, and we won't have even by 2035, the proper electrified infrastructure national grid to cope with all of these new EV cars, which the government are mandating needs to be 50% of the target by 2030. But of course, it's very likely that there's going to have to be rationing on some of these car parks because they simply weren't built to face up to the sort of weight of all the cars that are coming close to us. Okay, so that's it. That was Ballsy brief number 3. Pass on the message. EV net zero electrification is going to be a huge problem and is going to be poverty inducing for this country.
Ballsy thinking, the gender agnostic antidote to sloppy thinking.